July 17, 1964. The Sands Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, the Copa Room. 9:58 p.m. Dean Martin was 28 minutes into his show. The room was packed. 800 people, wall-to-wall Vegas glamour, men in tuxedos, women dripping in diamonds, champagne flowing, money everywhere. This was the Sands at its peak, the crown jewel of the Strip, where Frank Sinatra held court, where the Rat Pack ruled, where legends were made every single night. Dean was on fire. The audience was eating out of his hand. Every joke landed. Every song brought the house down. The band was swinging hard. The energy was electric. This was what Vegas was built for. Nights like this. Performers like Dean Martin making magic look effortless. Dean moved into his next number. A swing tune. Upbeat. Fun. The kind of song that made people want to get up and dance. He was halfway through the second verse when he noticed something at the entrance to the Copa Room. A commotion. Voices raised. Not loud enough to interrupt the show. Not yet. But enough to catch Dean's attention. Dean kept singing, kept performing, but his eyes drifted toward the entrance, toward the source of the disturbance. And what he saw made something cold settle in his chest. A family, a black family, a man, a woman, 2 children, maybe 8 and 10 years old, dressed beautifully. The man in a sharp suit, the woman in an elegant dress, the children in their Sunday best. They were standing at the entrance, talking to the maitre d', or rather, the maitre d' was talking to them, blocking them, preventing them from entering. Dean couldn't hear what was being said. The music was too loud, but he could see it. The body language. The maitre d' with his arm extended, creating a barrier, the family standing there, confused, hurt, the children looking up at their parents, not understanding why they couldn't go in. Dean's voice faltered. Just for a second, just a missed word, a slight hesitation. The band didn't notice, the audience didn't notice, but Dean noticed, because he was watching the maitre d' shake his head, watching him point toward the exit, watching him try to turn this family away. And Dean Martin stopped singing, mid-word, mid-note, just stopped. The band played for another few bars, confused. Then the music died, one instrument at a time, until there was silence. Complete silence. 800 people turned to look at Dean, standing center stage, microphone in hand, staring at the entrance. His face had changed. The easy smile was gone. The relaxed posture was gone. What was left was something harder, colder, angry. Dean walked toward the edge of the stage, toward the entrance where the family was still standing, where the maitre d' was still blocking them. "Excuse me," Dean said, his voice carrying across the silent Copa Room. The maitre d' turned, saw Dean. His face went pale. "Mr. Martin, I was just—" "What's the problem here?" Dean interrupted. "No problem, sir," the maitre d' said quickly. "I'm just explaining to these people that we're fully booked tonight. They'll need to come back another—" "We're not fully booked," Dean said, his voice flat. "I can see empty tables from here." The maitre d' stammered. "Well, yes, but those are reserved for—" "For who?" Dean asked. The maitre d' glanced at the family, then back at Dean. "For our regular guests, sir. Our established clientele." Dean's jaw tightened. "And this family isn't regular guests? They're not established?" The maitre d' shifted uncomfortably. "Mr. Martin, perhaps we should discuss this privately." "There's nothing private about it," Dean said, his voice louder now. "Cutting. This family came to see a show. They want to sit down. They want to be entertained. So what's the problem?" The maitre d' lowered his voice, tried to speak quietly, but Dean's microphone was still on, still live. Every word carried through the Copa Room. "So you know how it is. We have certain standards, certain expectations. Some of our guests might be uncomfortable if—" "If what?" Dean interrupted. "Say it. Say what you mean." The maitre d' looked around desperately, at the 800 people watching, at the family standing there, at Dean Martin staring him down from the stage. I can't. Dean turned to the family, spoke directly to them. Did you buy tickets for tonight? The man nodded. Yes, sir. We bought them 3 weeks ago. Dean looked back at the maitre d'. They bought tickets 3 weeks ago. They paid money, same as everyone else in this room. And you're telling them they can't sit down because why exactly? The maitre d' was sweating now. Mr. Martin, please. The hotel has policies. We can't just... Dean set his microphone down on the piano, walked off the stage, down the steps, through the tables. Every eye in that room followed him, watching, holding their breath. Dean walked straight to the entrance, stood beside the family, looked at the maitre d'. These policies you're talking about, Dean said quietly, dangerously. Are they written down somewhere? Can you show them to me? The maitre d' opened his mouth, closed it, said nothing. Because that's what I thought, Dean said. There are no policies. There's just you making a decision right now, in this moment, to turn away a family because of the color of their skin. The Copa Room was dead silent. You could hear people breathing. That's what's happening here, isn't it? Dean continued. This family has tickets. They're dressed appropriately. They're polite. They've done nothing wrong. But you don't want them in this room. You don't want them sitting at these tables. You don't want them breathing the same air as your established clientele. The maitre d' looked like he wanted to disappear. Mr. Martin, I don't make the rules. You're just following orders, Dean said, his voice dripping with contempt. That's your excuse? I've heard that one before. Didn't hold up then either. Dean turned to the family. The father was standing very still, his face carefully neutral. Years of practice keeping his expression blank in moments like this. The mother had tears in her eyes, quiet tears, tears of humiliation and anger and exhaustion. The children were looking at the floor. I'm sorry, Dean said to them, his voice gentle now. I'm sorry you had to experience this. You shouldn't have to. Nobody should have to. The father spoke, his voice controlled, dignified. It's all right, Mr. Martin. We understand. We'll just... No, Dean said firmly. It's not all right. And you're not leaving. You paid for tickets. You're going to see the show. He turned back to the maitre d'. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to seat this family at the best available table. Not in the back. Not hidden away. The best table. And you're going to treat them with the same respect you'd treat anyone else walking through that door. Or what? The maitre d' said. A flash of defiance. Or I walk off this stage and don't come back, Dean said. And you explain to the hotel management why Dean Martin cancelled a sold-out show. And you explain to these 800 people why they don't get the entertainment they paid for. And tomorrow, when the newspapers ask me why I walked out, I'll tell them exactly what happened here tonight. The maitre d' went white. You wouldn't. Try me, Dean said. The silence stretched. Tense. Dangerous. Finally, the maitre d' broke. He turned to the family, his face tight. This way, please. He led them into the Copa Room, to a table in the center. Not the back, not the side. The center. Where everyone could see them, where they belonged. Dean watched them sit down, watched the maitre d' bring menus, watched him pour water with shaking hands. Then Dean walked back to the stage. The room was still silent, 800 people processing what they'd just witnessed. Dean picked up his microphone, looked out at the audience. Before we continue, Dean said, his voice calm now, measured, I want to say something. Some of you might be uncomfortable right now, might be thinking that I made a scene, that I embarrassed that man, that I should have handled this differently, privately, behind closed doors. Dean paused. Too bad. Because that family, Dean pointed to the table where they sat, was about to be humiliated. Publicly. In front of a room full of people, for no reason except the color of their skin. And I'm not going to stand on this stage and pretend that's acceptable. I'm not going to sing and smile and entertain you while human beings are being treated like they don't belong." Dean looked around the room. "If that makes you uncomfortable, there's the door. If you can't sit in the same room as a black family and enjoy a show, then leave. I'll personally make sure you get a refund." Nobody moved. "Good," Dean said. "Then let's continue." The band started up. Dean sang. And for the rest of the show, every time Dean looked at that table in the center of the room, he saw the family. The father sitting up straight, proud, the mother smiling, wiping her eyes, the children watching with wide eyes, wonder and joy replacing the hurt. After the show, Dean didn't go to his dressing room. He went straight to the family's table. They stood when he approached. The father extended his hand. "Mr. Martin, I don't know what to say. Thank you doesn't seem—" "It's enough," Dean said, shaking his hand. "I'm just sorry it was necessary." "I'm Robert Johnson," the man said. "This is my wife, Dorothy, and our children, Marcus and Angela." Dean shook each of their hands, knelt down to be eye level with the kids. "Did you enjoy the show?" he asked. Marcus, the older boy, nodded vigorously. "It was the best thing I've ever seen." Dean smiled. "Better than the circus?" "Better than the circus," Marcus confirmed. Dean stood, looked at Robert and Dorothy. "How often does this happen?" Robert sighed. "More than you'd think. Some places are better than others. But Las Vegas, it's complicated here." "I know," Dean said, "and I'm sorry. I wish I'd been paying more attention sooner. I wish I'd noticed before tonight." "You noticed when it mattered," Dorothy said quietly. "That's more than most people do." Dean pulled out a card, wrote something on the back. "If you ever have trouble getting into one of my shows again, you call this number. Ask for me personally. You'll never be turned away again. I promise." Robert took the card, looked at Dean, his eyes wet. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for seeing us." Dean shook his head. "Thank you for not giving up, for fighting to be here, for teaching your children that they belong anywhere they want to be." The family left, and Dean stood there for a moment, watching them go, thinking about what had just happened. The maitre d' appeared, nervous, apologetic. "Mr. Martin, save it," Dean said. "I don't want to hear it." The maitre d' nodded, disappeared. Dean went to his dressing room, found Frank Sinatra waiting. Frank had heard what happened. The whole hotel had heard. "You caused quite a stir," Frank said. "Good," Dean replied. "Then I did my job." Frank smiled. "You know the hotel's not happy. Let them be unhappy," Dean said. "I don't work for hotels. I work for people, and those people deserved better." Frank raised his glass. "To doing what's right even when it's hard." Dean clinked glasses with him, "especially when it's hard." The next day, the Las Vegas newspapers ran the story. "Dean Martin stops show to defend black family." Some papers praised him, called him brave, progressive, a man ahead of his time. Some papers criticized him, said he was making trouble, causing division, should have handled it privately. Dean didn't care. He'd done what needed to be done, and he'd do it again. Years later, in 1987, a reporter asked Dean about that night, asked if he remembered. "Of course I remember," Dean said. "I remember Robert and Dorothy and Marcus and Angela. I remember the look on those kids' faces when they thought they were going to be turned away. And I remember thinking, if I don't do something right now, I'm part of the problem." "Did you ever see the family again?" the reporter asked. "Once," Dean said. About 10 years later, Marcus was in college, pre-law, wanted to be a civil rights attorney. Angela was studying medicine. Robert and Dorothy came to another show, front row this time. No trouble getting in. And after, they told me that night changed their children's lives, showed them that people could stand up, could speak out, could make a difference. Dean paused, then he said, "But what they didn't know is that night changed my life too, changed how I saw my responsibility, my platform, my privilege. I'd been performing in Vegas for years, making money, having fun, never thinking about who couldn't get in, who was being turned away, who was being told they didn't belong. And that night I realized I could keep ignoring it, keep pretending it wasn't my problem. Or I could use whatever power I had to make things a little bit better. I chose better. And I'd make that choice again every time. July 17th, 1964. The night Dean Martin stopped mid-song. The night he walked off stage to defend a black family being denied seats they'd paid for. The night he chose justice over comfort, humanity over policy, dignity over silence. The night he showed 800 people that real courage isn't about big gestures. It's about small moments, everyday decisions. Choosing to see injustice and refusing to look away. Choosing to speak up even when it's easier to stay quiet. Choosing to use whatever platform you have, whatever privilege you have, whatever voice you have, to stand beside people who need someone to stand with them. That's what Robert and Dorothy and Marcus and Angela needed that night. Someone to stand with them. Someone to say you belong here. Someone to make the invisible visible. And Dean Martin did that. Not because he was a saint, not because he was perfect, but because in that moment when it mattered, he made the right choice. And sometimes that's all it takes. One person, one moment, one choice, to stop, to speak, to stand, and everything changes.